All right, I want to welcome all of you to latest American Gladio. Of course, I am gonna have to wait till some people come into the room. You know, there's a lot going on, but in any case, until we really get rolling, I'm gonna kill a little time. Talk a little about the NBA Finals. Talk about killing time. It is basically, killing hours of your life watching it. I was drinking with a friend of mine 2 days ago, game two. I don't think I'm going to go watch any more of those games unless other people are going as well to just watch it at the bar. Or I think last week I went for one of the Eastern Conference Finals games. I went to a friend's house, had a couple drinks there. The game was less interesting than the game of Taboo that that the hosts were doing. And I'm not somebody who actually likes board games, but that's how much I disdain the NBA now. We have A. Pinochet. Well. Look who's crawled out from under the sofa. Pinochet, by the way, has a new channel. I have checked it out. I do like it. I like the really austere features, just him talking about words, literally. And I'm not being sarcastic. I do like it. So give him, give him a couple views. A little different from what I do, but I'm kind of the same sentiment as he is on a number of issues. So yeah, the NBA is the biggest joke on TV now. You have 32 teams of multi-million-dollar, male models basically going around, and they are performance athletes. But let's be honest. Back when Larry Bird was playing, or back when Dennis Rodman might have been the same type, but let's say David Robinson. Charles Barkley at the time, they were playing, but they were not really into this whole men's fashion thing, going there with their short suit. And I remember a couple years ago there was the whole geek fad was going on, where they would wear basically a plaid shirt and weird glasses. Good evening, Jeffrey Allen Johnson from Kansas, correct? The NBA is basically, I did look at the ratings earlier, and they're not doing too well. So we're going to talk a little more about other topics, but I'm basically letting you guys come in. We're going to talk about, of course, the whole bullshit with the anthem, which is still, if you really want to, if let's be honest, okay? I don't think the majority of my audience supports the anthem protests. At the same time, I don't really give a shit about having the rules. I don't care if the Eagles necessarily go to the White House, because fuck the Eagles anyway. I don't care about the Eagles going to the White House. I didn't want them to win the Super Bowl. So, am I supposed to be, who the fuck am I kidding? Jeffrey Allen Johnson, I quit watching the NBA when Jordan quit. You know what? There have been bright spots since then, but I would say that since he left, there's been a problem with the league. And I don't know what the answer is. Kobe Bryant was an amazing player. LeBron James is still an amazing player, even though I'm not as crazy about him as a lot of the other people here are. Pinochet says, I stopped when the Supersonics left Seattle. I think that's a very valid reason, and that's going to go what he's putting in there. He's hinting at something I do want to talk about when we cover that topic, which we will a little later. We're going to talk about Nicaragua, which it's 122 people dead now, and who else on YouTube talks about it besides me? Not many people. Not many people. Not on TV either. They don't give a fuck about that country. Of course, there was that volcano in Guatemala. amazing, amazing, amazing photos and video from there. Fortunately, a lot of people died there. God rest their souls. But yeah, we're going to talk about Nicaragua. We're going to talk about Bill Clinton, everybody's favorite president. We're going to delve into the. This is what fell when I was in the kitchen. We're going to talk about a little more of the Me Too movement with Bill Clinton. A little something. That sucks. I did have a page open. 1 second. I had a page that was perfect. Okay, I found it. So we're good to go with that, as long as it doesn't fall. Let me just remember the page. Everybody remember page 46. Okay. I think so. Page 46. That's going to be Bill Clinton. We're going to talk about Cauliflowerfornia. That's my new name for it, because nothing makes sense over there. We're going to be tracking what's going on. I did see, it might have been too early, so let's not count our eggs before they hatch. I did see there was some really funky shit going on over there. Let's go. I guess we'll go to Real Clear. So right now, let me see here. There's still a lot of people to go. So I do see really a problem there. Eventually, I do think that there will be a showdown between Gavin Newsom and this Cox dude. And it would fit California that they would vote for a guy named Cox. And I think you know why I'm saying that. But I'm not going to tell you, because, by the way, today I got banned, locked on Twitter. So not banned yet. And I'm thinking about whether to appeal or not, because I did report somebody earlier this week to teach him a lesson. Somebody made a little reference to a person having occult beliefs, and I was like, well, isn't that religious discrimination? So I reported it as religious discrimination. So maybe I got what I deserved. But if you're getting the hints that I'm trying to give to you, you'll understand why I think it's a good place to start. There's somebody on YouTube who has occult beliefs, who was fighting with somebody else who is basically calling literally anybody who doesn't live outside the island of Manhattan a Nazi. And he called him the occult guy. And I said, well, isn't that a little discriminatory on religious grounds? Because their whole tiff was over somebody else screwing with somebody, sharing a lot of stuff that was anti-Islamic. So that was that's why I'm temporarily blocked on Twitter. So I guess until I'm unblocked or something, nothing I can do. We have Lennon McCarthy back. Thank you for joining. Jeffrey Allen Johnson says that volcano was horrid, but damn, people, stop videoing and haul ass. I sure as hell don't stick around and film tornadoes up close and personal. Pinochet says, I was just listening to someone talk about Nicaragua earlier. Only other person I found. The hit squads are terrifying. Yeah, it looks like the violence is getting a little more organized. And I saw a hilarious meme earlier that I can't find. I should have saved it, because it was just too much too much stuff to do today. I've been writing an article that we're going to be discussing a little closer to next week. Not related to anything I've been doing lately, just kind of a personal collaboration with somebody else. What else do I have here? If you haven't yet, the first link in the description, you can see me hovering over it, is my interview with Halsey News, along with Just My Stupid Opinion, Adrian Lloyd, yesterday concerning the Mattis file. Please watch it and share it. And there could be in the offing a few other ones. Then we have, Ryu Shiska's here. Thanks for stopping by. He says, okay, so Lennon McCarthy says, I didn't like Cox, but Trump came out for Cox, so I'm giving Cox a try. Yeah, the guy that I was more interested in passing over to the second round was this Travis Allen. There's apparently a lot of animosity between those candidates, and it's very difficult to care from here in Ohio. We had two candidates that were almost in, that we had one guy running for governor, Mike DeWine, who's been, you can't. There can't be an election without him. He's literally running for something every time, and he wins. So, I was tired of him, so I voted for the other person, the lieutenant governor here, Mary Taylor, who is kind of a less. She's a much younger female and more hardcore pro-gun version of Mike DeWine, who also hated John Kasich. So, yeah. I don't know what to say. I thought Travis Allen seemed a little better, but that's up to you. Yeah, this is a funny one. Let me see. So 15% of precincts reporting. It looks like this Gavin Newsom is going to make it to the second round like very easily. I don't know which districts aren't reporting yet. Maybe I'll find a different map. I'll go to Politico, and we'll check in every so often. California primary. So that's pretty interesting. Let's just go to Politico.com. Yeah, as they are. I don't really like Politico for their articles. I think that they are, in many cases, just pathetic in their reporting. It's really because of Politico that the Mattis file reached my attention. So you're seeing here, basically, the San Diego metro area is largely voting Republican. You'll go to LA, solidly blue. San Jose, San Francisco, Sacramento, solidly blue. I don't know what the hell's up here. I've never been west of Michigan, so, you can call me some sort of toothless hick or something, but there's nothing I can do about that. So you're not going to get the best political analysis here. You might have to go to CNN and hear some more polished political analysis. You'll just have to accept the fact that they're telling you lies and pretending that they know what the hell they're talking about. But, yeah, I don't know what the hell's up here. If somebody could help me. Let's just go to the California governor page. So this would be Shit on You County. Yep. So Shit on You County wants John Cox. They want it really hard. And then you have Shat on You County also going for John Cox. You go to Humboldt County, which is Weed Central, they're going for Gavin Newsom. So there you go. So we'll be checking in live every so often. California can't get enough Cox. I mean, yeah, you're gonna have to print those. You're gonna have to print those and put those on your car. You're gonna have to really wear your heart on your crotch this election. Pinochet, if you want, type in a URL. We could take a look at those live today. I haven't been able to look at those. A lot of what I find is kind of secondhand. Some of what I find is kind of shitty. So, maybe send me something otherwise. What's the best way to get a hold of me? By the way, let me do this right now. 1 second. I'm going to conceal the rest of my screen. And I'm going to share my Discord in the chat. So, a lot of you guys are, we do get along. I hope we get along. You know, if we didn't get along, you guys would let me know, right? You wouldn't like pretend that we're friends or something, because we're kind of not. But let's say we were. You guys can join my Discord, and joining the Discord isn't about growing the network. It's more about helping. You know, if people want to take part in some things that we do, me and some other creators, you know, share information, talk a little about, you know, the things that are the topics of the day. You can join my Discord. Join Discord in general. It's the best place to really work and collaborate without using, you know, some like the traditional ones. Let's say you get, you know, Twitter, for example. Well, I found that the model for working on Twitter is virtually, it's so chaotic. There's certain people that will communicate mostly on Twitter, and I'm not ragging on Len McCarthy. I'm saying other people that I work with besides him. Whenever I need to reach him, it's pretty easy. But there's other people that, you know, they insist on communicating on Twitter. It's the shittiest system that there is. You can't keep track of anything. Your conversations are not priority. You might as well find a better place. So I put my Discord link in the chat if anybody wants to. Anyway, what should we tackle first? I would like to tackle the masterpiece case decision, the masterpiece cake. And everybody's talking about the court rules narrowly for the baker in the same-sex wedding cake case. Now, I think a lot of people were laughing at the fact that they said that it was a narrow decision, when in reality it was a 7-2 decision. So that's a 5-judge margin. I think the only thing I think that complicates it is that there were, I believe, 4 different opinions between the 7 judges that ruled in favor of Jack Phillips, the guy who was the cake dude. And, you know, I was reading through the decision earlier, and I read the dissenting opinion of Sotomayor and what's her name? Damn it. The fuck is the name of that other Ginsburg? Yeah, and really what they were doing, you know, they were really trying to shoehorn something out of it that they could lend the credibility that there has to be an obligation for this guy to bake these cakes. And this isn't a topic that I've worked on a lot or talked about, because I personally thought it was self-explanatory. If you're a person who, you know, you're into, for example, let's pick something, you know, you're into fishing, okay? And you're always walking around in your fisherman's outfit with the hooks and whatever, and the rubber boots and whatever. You're not going to walk into a vegan restaurant and say to them, you know, start talking to them about, well, what about the tuna? You know, where's your tuna sandwich or something? Where's your and you know, this is a pretty extreme example, but if you're a fisherman, you love fishing, you're not gonna ask a vegan restaurant for like a trout dinner or something. It doesn't make any sense. And they would say, well, we don't serve that here. We're vegan. We don't even believe in eating any animal product. And you would say, well, come on. I mean, I'm a pescatarian. I believe in eating fish. That's the way I believe. I mean, look, you have to accommodate me. And I don't understand why I'm not entitled to the same equal accommodation as everybody else. They would say, I'm sorry, that's not the way our business operates. Our business is based on providing, food with no animal products for the vegan community. And I'm saying that as somebody that doesn't really support veganism. I think veganism is kind of a fruity way to live. No pun intended. You see, you can't call that hateful because vegans eat fruits. So, it makes total sense. In any case, I think vegans should be entitled to have their own stores or whatever. Look, if the decision had gone the other way, the reason I picked such a stupid example is that you could pick all sorts of convoluted things that you could do. You could hypothetically, you could go to a Catholic gift store, and you could request articles. You could say to them, well, I want a locket that has an upside down pentagram on it, or I want a locket that has, for example, a statue of Vishnu on it, a Hindu symbol or something like that. And hypothetically, I mean, it's a business, it's a religious business, but it's still a business. So I'm personally, I think it's a good decision. I don't know about you guys. I don't know what you guys think about, cake and shit. Fruits eating fruits. Yep. Nick's Radio, best example I've seen yet. Imagine demanding that Muslim artist draw Muhammad. I've heard that one a lot of times. Yeah, exactly. A lot of times. Okay, so I am gonna type that in. We'll get to that. Pinochet, the Nicaragua Libre. Whoops. Okay. So I can't do it on Twitter. That's gonna suck. Videos. These shouldn't, I wish this wasn't on Twitter. Let's look at this one. So I have to unmute that. There's no action on that one. You might have to be a little more specific, buddy. I'm sorry. This does interest me. I think it interests me. But send me a URL through my Discord. And that'll be the best way. Let's see. Okay, well, that's from 2 years ago. Okay, here's one. So yeah, they just crowd this little girl with her fucking backpack. She says I ain't doing nothing. I don't know why they're concentrating on her. They should just ignore her. You know. Now that I think that's a female police officer shoving this old dude around. Yeah, that's your civil police in Nicaragua. This is in Tehuantepec.
Me golpearon y me dijeron que si yo no me iba, me iban a tirar gases lacrimógenos. Y no se me hace justo.
Yeah, she said she was like just walking along and they just fired tear gas.
Que ellos hacen oprimiendo al pueblo cuando somos el pueblo los que les damos de comer a ellos.
No sos estudiante, la ibas para
Yo soy trabajadora. Yo soy trabajadora, trabajo en Axeo Tecnología.
She says I'm just a worker around here.
Y nosotros no tenemos necesidad de que estos hijueputas anden oprimiendo al pueblo, porque del pueblo
She said we don't want that son of a bitch putting down the people.
se hartan.
¿Ibas para tu trabajo?
No, yo simplemente venía a la calle, iba para el gimnasio.
She says, yeah, just walking down the street trying to go to the high school.
Yo ni siquiera ando, yo apoyo la protesta, muchachos, no me malentiendan, pero yo no les estoy haciendo nada, absolutamente
Said she supports the protest, but she wasn't a protester.
nada a ellos.
All right, yeah, that's about. I mean, that's probably 1,000% more than you'll hear on actual news networks about this. Okay, they don't give a shit. This is Nicaragua, like every day. There's not this story. 121 people are dead so far. Now, look, I'm not going to tell you that every single conflict in the world where or civil disturbance where people die, America should be involved in. You should be concerned every single day of your life. I'm just saying that there's other conflicts, in countries that start with a P, where you hear this stuff. You hear literally when somebody farts over there, it's like on the fucking news all the time, all over, like French news, RT. And believe me, I usually don't criticize RT, but CNN, anything, it's all the people who are progressives, they will complain day and night, and they'll bitch about countries that have they start with the letter P over in the Middle East, but they'll never mention Nicaragua. So I've said before, it might be necessary for Nicaragua to start spelling their name with a P at the beginning. Okay, that's what I'm saying. It says the Nicaraguan Center for Human Rights said another 1,300 people have been wounded in the protests, which have met with a violent crackdown from the government. This is now a massacre, a human tragedy where the goal is to exterminate all those young people who think differently than or are critical of the government. I think that's a bit of an exaggeration. I don't think that they're trying to kill everybody, but it's the reaction has been exaggerated. Okay, you should not be killing a lot of people who are rioting, or I don't think most of these are riots, by the way. If you compare these gatherings of human beings in Nicaragua to the ones in certain countries with a P, I think you would find that the methods of demonstration are completely different, and that the rhetoric as well is somewhat of a different tenor and tone of desire. I don't know if I said that very coherently. Countries that with a P at the beginning of their name in the Middle East. A lot of these protesters have an expressed desire to breach an international border and cause mayhem on the other side. Whereas in Nicaragua, they don't. I think that's a very clear distinction. Therefore, I think that in many ways, the justification for the deaths of these 122 people is to a certain extent, less justifiable than the deaths of, the over 100 people over in that country whose name starts with a P over in the Middle East. So, it says here, the latest toll includes a young boy killed by gunfire during clashes Tuesday in the resort city of Granada between anti-government protesters and riot police, the group said. A parish priest, Wilmer Perez, earlier told the 100% news channel that's a weird name, that the boy was killed in a confrontation between demonstrators and government supporters trying to clear a barricade in the city, 45 kilometers south of the capital, Managua. 10 people were also killed in running battles over the weekend in the flashpoint city of Masaya, near Managua, said Sanid, which is that human rights organization. Masaya residents armed with homemade mortars and slingshots faced off in clashes with what they said were riot police and vigilante groups loyal to Ortega, who has dominated the Central American country's politics for 4 decades. That's a little bit of an exaggeration. I believe for a while he was not. For example, he wasn't president between 1991, I believe, and 2007. So, there was a good period of time where he simply wasn't president. He wasn't really active as much. Although he did run for president, I think, in 2001. But homemade rockets and mortars and slingshots. Well, yes, that would constitute an armed protest in some cases, or perhaps a riot. What was the response when that happened in the country with the P? They said, well, that doesn't really pose a threat. Slingshots and whatever. So, well, what are we supposed to say? Am I supposed to simply ignore this story because, these people are getting shot and some of them are dying? Separately on Tuesday, the Organization of American States, which was holding its General Assembly in Washington, issued a condemnation of the violence and appealed to the Nicaraguan government and other parties to demonstrate commitment and engage constructively in peaceful negotiation. The city braced for a new night of clashes Tuesday after several nights of attacks that residents say were led by riot police. Yesterday we buried one person. The day before we buried another. One was a 15-year-old boy. He begged for his life. He told the policewoman, don't kill me, but bam, 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 she shot him, said Ramona Garcia, age 83. We're sick and tired of it. We want that son of a bitch Ortega to go. The people want him to go. All Nicaragua wants him to go, she told AFP, which is Agence France Presse, speaking beside one of the myriad barricades residents have erected in the cities. So, okay, we're talking about economic pressure right now. It says in Managua there is a virtual curfew in place after dark with motorcycle gangs terrorizing those who venture out, according to the Sanid. Barricades set up on key highways have meanwhile ground transportation to a halt. Some parts of the country are beginning to run out of fuel and other essentials. The country's business elite, long close to Ortega, have broken with him over the crackdown. The Catholic Church, also once close to Ortega, initially tried to mediate the conflict, but it called off the talks after attacks on a march led by victims' mothers last Wednesday left 16 people dead. So, so understand this. There was a march in commemoration of some people who had been killed in earlier demonstrations led by the victims' mothers. And those were attacked by pro-government people, and 16 people died in that one. So that's not interesting enough for Jimmy Dore. And it's also not interesting enough for the mainstream media. So I find that a bit shallow on their part. The crackdown on what started as relatively small protests against pension cuts has fueled demands for the ouster of Ortega and Murillo. Ortega blames the violence on right-wing opposition groups he says are conspiring to terrorize the country. The former guerrilla leader first came to power in 1979 at the head of a communist junta installed by the Sandinista rebels after they ousted dictator Anastasio Somoza. He lost power at the ballot box in 1990, then led the opposition until winning a 2006 election that again returned him to the presidency. He is now serving his third consecutive term, due to end in 2022. So yeah, that's it. Let's see what else people are talking about. Did Pinochet have to go? Yeah, Pinochet, you're gonna have to send me more video. Just join your gay-ass Discord. Well, send me your gay-ass links. You know, that's how it works, buddy. Send me the gay-ass link. You see here. All right. So these people are still living third world style, one step above throwing shit at each other. Daniel Ortega is following that Chinese model well. Yeah, Pinochet, put the link where, you should be able to see me now. Yeah. Anyway, in the Discord I'm talking about, not on the screen. So that's it about Nicaragua until what's his name? Pinochet sends me the link. A small story here. Last week I did do a story featuring something that Pinochet just dropped offline on Discord, so I don't know what the hell he's doing. But Gilbert Arenas, he has a show on Complex, which is a hip hop magazine. Last week I showed a video where he was basically, essentially, he was hosting Jamel Hill, who is, one of those ESPN people, one of the weirdos on ESPN who's all about the politics. We're going to get to a little more of that later. Unfortunately, I can't look on Twitter for what she's been saying, since for some reason I'm locked on Twitter, but she can pretty much, fuck ESPN completely over on Twitter. That's fine. That doesn't violate the terms of service. Follow Bold on Grindr. You misspelled it. I think, what's it called? I wouldn't say that I had not spent time in Venezuela. Bold. Share some of your experiences. The same thing I said to my son about Discord, Pinochet. Well, no. Look, if you don't like Discord, what's the one that you do like? Do you like using Twitter? I think Twitter is fucking retarded. I don't work well under stressful situations. Well, look, whenever you can get me those links, and I'll try to use them. I might even just dedicate a video to them. This guy. By the way, I have been leaving comments on your channel. I hope you know that. I'd be glad to have you on if you want one day. Maybe tonight wouldn't be the best night because there's a lot of stuff to cover. But we could have you and Lennon McCarthy. Bold knows how to spell Grindr because he's on it. Yeah, I'm on it. Seeing if Ted Haggard goes on. Yeah, that's Grindr. Wasn't Eminem the guy who he said? What was it? I think it was Eminem, Tinder. So this was in December, and he's like, Eminem made a funny about being on dating apps, and particularly one used by gay and bisexual men to meet other men, and has now been forced to explain that no, he isn't after fans took him seriously. It's not funny if you have to explain the punchline, M. In an interview with Vulture, Eminem originally said of his dating habits, well, yeah, Tinder and Grindr. I also used to go to strip clubs. What can I say? So people took it to me. Now, the thing is that a lot of people will just read what he says on. First of all, Vulture is a blog, so they don't see the sarcasm on video, and that's really where the problem starts. So I remember that. I was laughing really hard. I thought he was trying to be serious about, how he's getting through his dating life, but no, apparently it was just a joke. Let's see here. Why does it look like half of that comment is hidden? Whatever. Okay, so we did Nicaragua. Here we go. So Gavin Newsom is going to be probably going through to the runoff, whatever you call it, next year. I think eventually we'll see John Cox go through to the second round. It has to be looking like a nervous night for the Democrats, just because I think that they were expecting a lot less of a competitive field, and instead, they are going to have to run an actual election over the fall, and it's not going to be easy because Gavin Newsom has a lot of questions about his character. We probably do a talk about it one day with Carlos or McCarthy, whatever. The Senate race, however, is virtually, it's just a joke. Democrat Dianne Feinstein will certainly be the winner. Then the next person would be Kevin De Leon who's also a really far left Democrat. He'll probably go on to the second round unless this James Bradley guy can catch up, which I don't think will even matter. He's going to be basically, he's going to be what would you call it? Fishing bait for Dianne Feinstein. And, a lot of these other people, look at this Patrick Little that many people were making a big deal out of on YouTube. He was getting, you go on to JF Garepi's stream, you'd see all these alt-right people, boosting for him and saying, "Oh, vote him in. He's gonna be a senator or something." Less than 30,000 votes, and it's still 30,000 votes, so it's not like it's nobody. But for example, Aaron Cruz, who was kind of a lesser-known Republican candidate, 91,000 votes. So this guy who people made a big deal out of, his face was plastered all over Facebook. He is in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13th place. This is the one who said he's gonna get rid of the Jewish conspiracy. He's gonna assess the JQ and really deal with it and get back at them for ruining the country. America, the country that the Jews ruined. That was his whole thing. Well, that's not going to happen this year, buddy. It's like, people don't realize that in order to, and I'm not just saying this because I'm beating up on him, even though the guy, if you look at his stream with Halsey News, he was probably one of the least intelligent people to be on JF's Blood Sports, as opposed to Nick Fuentes, for example. When you go and you run for office at a local level, let's say senator or governor, state or local, you can have all these ideologies that say, well, I want to, for example, build, a space program that will take us to a new star system or whatever. You can have those belief systems, but that's not going to get you anywhere near public office. People are not going to vote for you based on a proposal that has very, very little connection to what they need day to day in their district. And think California. There's a water crisis, illegal immigration. A lot of people want a universal health care. Let's put that out there. A lot of people, they want to deal with the homeless population. They want to deal with opiates. They want to deal with adjusting to the new legal marijuana over there. There's different opinions on that. That's really what you win on in California. This guy didn't do that. So people are going to be, I'm sure people are going to be saying, the election was fixed against him. Then I mean, what is this Li Ling Shi? Was election fixed against her because she lost by, I mean, she earned probably 20,000 votes less than him. It's amazing sometimes. What else do we have here? RIE. Rest in estrogen. Lennon McCarthy says I voted for Aaron. Yeah, she seemed like an interesting person. Yeah, this is interesting here from Jeffrey Allen Johnson. Hold on. Ew, ovensmoke.com. What the fuck is that? Should I look that up? I'm not going to look that up now. That's disgusting. ESPN, where you go to get sports but get leftist propaganda. Shiska, you're going to have to join the Discord now and send me like a screenshot of that because I'm not going to visit that URL. Let me see here. Pinochet says he's weighed down by a bunch of. Are those like your wife and kids or something? Bold, we set an aircraft plant up in 2008 in Venezuela. 8 months later, the government shut it down, costing over 1,000 jobs local. Idiots, third world bullshit. Well, on that note, here, let me move over. There's a story I forgot to add in here. Just because I was thinking about using it for a different day. Let me see if I can find it. All right, I found it somewhere else. So here we go. PDVSA, you might know, that is one of the topics I focus most on when I talk about Venezuela. And there's a lot of other stuff. I know that PDVSA isn't the only issue that's going on in Venezuela, but it is a keystone issue. So it says, and this title is an understatement. I do like this Irina Slav. She has written a number of good updated articles about what's going on with the oil industry in Venezuela. It says Venezuela's state oil company PDVSA has told 8 foreign clients it will be unable to supply the contracted volumes of crude oil. A company employee told S&P Platts. That's originally where I got this from. Among the affected clients due to the low availability of crude to export are Ninas, TIPCO, Chevron, CNPC, Reliance, Conoco, Valero, and Lukoil, which will partially receive the volumes established by the contracts, the person said. The amount the company will not be able to supply is close to half of the total committed volumes of this grade, Mary 16, for June. It only has 578,000 barrels per day of the grade available, while the total contracted volume is 1.271 million barrels daily. So think about it. They're operating at half of what their contract demands. PDVSA's total crude commitments for the month stand at 1.495 million barrel per day, but it only has 694,000 barrel per day available. Plagued by mismanagement, corruption, and most recently a lack of investment money under the double weight of U.S. sanctions and lower oil prices, PDVSA has seen its production plummet over the last couple of years. S&P Platts estimates this plunge has wiped out as much as 900,000 barrel per day from the company's daily production, with the latest daily average standing at 1.441 million barrel per day in April. Okay? Earlier this month, an executive from India's largest oil company, ONGC, said that PDVSA owes it $444 million in payments due under a joint project between the state company and the overseas division of ONGC OVL. They paid us 3 installments and have not paid any money for more than 6 months. OVL's managing director Narendra Verma said at a news conference. According to OVL, Venezuela's PDVSA has not paid dividends from the project to the Indian firm between 2009 and 2013, while no dividend has been declared after that. Meanwhile, collapsing Venezuela has reportedly offered India a 30% discount on crude oil purchases, but only if India agrees to pay in El Petro. India doesn't plan to use Venezuela's cryptocurrency to pay for crude oil imports from the Latin American nation, Indian Foreign Minister Sushma Swaraj said earlier this week. So that's how little confidence they have in that. And that should say something about the petro. That they would have gotten a 30% discount, but India wasn't even planning to do that. So let's look at maybe there's a little more news about that. So here you go. It says it has this one. India declines to buy Venezuelan oil with petro currency. Yeah, we're gonna skip this today, but that was a nice that was a nice topic to engage with on Venezuela. And Jeffrey, if you ever want to write me some longer account of your experience over there in Venezuela, I'd be glad to talk about it. If you ever want to go on the show, talk about it. Talk with Carlos or Gabriel about it. Yeah, it's really those are countries that I feel it's more important to focus on countries that are here in the Western Hemisphere that could be potentially one day good friends of the United States, but are in deep trouble, such as Nicaragua and Venezuela, as opposed to most of these countries in the Middle East. I don't believe in interventionism here, but I think we should pay attention to what's going on there, because a lot of these people could end up at our borders. Okay, so what should we talk about next? So yeah, Gilbert Arenas hit with restraining order after allegedly threatening to send nude pics of ex to her son. That's pretty funny. That is very ironic. I'm just going to show this. Literally the same month that this was on May 9th. So less than a month later, after everybody was he had her on his show of Complex, which is a good show with him, not with her. They might as well. Until this, I would have said they should give him her job, because he actually performed in the NBA. He was a great player. Let's listen to a couple minutes of it.
Welcome back to Out of Bounds. I'm Pierce Simpson. On today's episode, we'll recap the Western Conference playoff matchups as we give a prelude to the Western Conference Finals. But I'm joined here by Complex Sports editor, Mr. Adam Caparel. Adam, you got some money. Where that hoodie?
So this is a guy that can't talk about politics because he's melanin deficient.
Up in LA for the first time in my life.
Fairfax.
Yeah.
Listen, your New York
had to happen at some point.
Your
right?
New York pals are a little upset right now.
I know. Don't tell me.
You're officially a LA person.
No. Let's slowly roll just a little bit.
I'm with it. I'm also joined here by what was the nickname, the Chinese nickname they gave you? Grand General.
The Grand General.
The Grand General, Mr. Gilbert Arenas.
You know he got a new sweater when the words go this way, but he went this way.
He was like,
yeah.
Either that or he lost some money, so he was confused.
Nancy sent it to me. Nancy sent it.
Yeah, that's his show on Complex, which is just this hip-hop magazine. So, and then they had Jamel Hill. Let's go over here. I know you guys don't think that this is that big of a deal. I think it's a big deal.
Out of frustrating people. Just irritating. because it's not a real world to me, it's fake.
Right.
So I go on there and act a donkey just to piss people off.
So Gilbert Arenas is basically admitting that he's a troll on Twitter.
Right.
Because they take it so seriously. Yeah. And that's my whole goal, is to fucking frustrate the shit out of people because it's ruining their days for no reason. Like, yo, it's like getting yelled at on the phone. There's a fucking off button. But they don't understand that. But so they just sit there because our minds say, all right, I love you, Gil. I love you, Gil. I love you. You're a douchebag. Oh, I'm gonna comment to this one.
Right.
We go for the negative.
Yeah.
We go for the negative response, and that's what gets so. So if somebody wants attention, they know what to say. They know what to do. Right.
Well, some of it too is just though. I mean, at least this is where, because I'm not perfect at it, and I sort of use the following I have against the person or people that may tweet something negative. You know, to me, it's like my followers will handle it. Like I got goons out there, Twitter goons out there. Like they'll work you over a lot worse than I am.
You let them cross.
So she's basically endorsing. Again, I've said this several times. She's endorsing Twitter brigading. You know, if you're like that, you're basically living in rarefied air. There's people who go on Twitter. We get banned for nothing. Like calling somebody a bitch 5 times, like I did, over here. She called somebody else a bot 5 times. I said bitch 5 times. I get locked out of my account. Still don't know whether I'm going to appeal it. I don't give a shit about Twitter sometimes. I really just go on there because there's certain people that they're more easy to contact on Twitter. And so sometimes, you get onto some interesting threads. But other than that, I think it's probably my least favorite social media. Ryo Siska, I saw this before, but I've had it on before, so I'm just repeating myself. So I'm sorry, but I was just bringing it up because it's the same guy as Gilbert Arenas, hit with a restraining order after allegedly threatening to send nude pics of his ex to her son. Gilbert told me he was watching me at my son's school and that he had just saw him go into class, the woman said. The woman who said she's been in an on and off relationship with Arenas said in court documents filed in Los Angeles County Superior Court. In addition, the woman said that Gilbert said he was waiting to get my son's cell phone number from his son so that he could go send my child naked photos of me and video of Gilbert and I having sex and videos of me. The court filing included copies of text messages allegedly sent from Arena. They misspelled Arenas. So this is Law and Crime. I thought they would be doing better. I like Law and Crime, by the way, including one that said, "Wait till your son see your naked pictures. I'm gonna start fucking with your life." He has a phone, right? So this is effectively, think about what that actually means. Okay, presumption of innocence. Let's say he's innocent. Okay, right. So we've already done that. Let's presume that he's innocent. However, if it were to emerge that he's not innocent and that he did do this, Jamel Hill was basically discussing harassment on Twitter with somebody who himself harassed somebody using revenge porn, which I'm not sure what the law for that is in LA or the rest of California. But, I would say that, not to encourage people, but if somebody were to share this issue with Jamel Hill, I would like to know her response to the issue. I'm wondering exactly how she would feel, given a lot of the very sharp statements she's given about certain public figures, how she feels now that she is, she's associating with and appearing on the program of an accused revenge porn guy. Okay, that's what I wanted to go over. I know some of you might think, oh, it's a stupid issue. What the hell are you talking about? I'm just saying. By the way, yeah, that would be sending porn to a minor. That would make you, in my state, it would make you a sex offender. Len McCarthy says, what's the status? Is your account banned? It's locked. It's locked. So it's not banned yet. Pinochet, we're doing better. Midwest is doing well. I will not speak for the rest of the U.S. Trump ordered more MIC, so I'm good. Oh, okay. So you work in one of those industries. You know, I'm not very keen on the military industry, you know, the defense industry, because a lot of it's dependent on foreign aid. But you know, I know a lot of those jobs are very specialized, and if we were to get rid of a lot of those budgets, it's a good question what we would do with those people. You know, can defense contractors convert to non-military industries? I think people are being very naive about it, and you know, even people like me that do criticize U.S. foreign policy and the way that we spread that type of military aid around the world, you know, you have to think ahead of that, and people don't do it. Ryu Shiska says, the fucking chick is one hell of a hypocrite. Remember when Twitter banned Milo for his mob attacking the black chick? They should get banned. But in this cause, she openly endorses it and nothing. Yeah, that was with Leslie Jones. And I felt that Milo was, you know, I'm not a huge supporter of Milo, but I think he was right in that situation. And I think that, in effect, she's basically confessing to doing the same thing that he was accused of, that they never substantiated. I don't think that Milo was brigading. They never proved that he was brigading other people, but you know, just more proof that Twitter is just getting retarded. Should we mass flag Gilbert's Twitter account? No. Don't mass flag anybody. I'm saying that what you should do is you should share that story with Jemele Hill. You know, send it to her through to her email. Okay, and that story is in the description. So send her an email. Just ask her what her opinion is of this. Because if you know what, let's look up Jemele Hill's email. You know, and don't write a horrible email. Just say, you know, Jemele Hill, I know that you're a journalist, quote unquote. Please let me know what you think about this story. I noticed that you recently appeared on this person's program. Would you please comment on this? Has your view of him changed recently? I don't see an email here. Let's see. Yeah, I'm actually... Yeah, they want me to delete the tweet. So I'm not deleting the tweet at the moment. Okay, here, JemeleHill.com. Let's go to... Oh, this isn't actually owned by her. So somebody else made a fan page of hers. I'm not sure. Here, Muckrack. Website. Nope. Yeah, we're just gonna have to think about that. Okay, it's not the most important thing in the world. Shiska says she's ugly. I do think she's a little weird looking. She's got like some funny teeth. Then again, I'm not exactly Fabio, and you know, I think that there are some women journalists that are very good. I used to really think Christiane Amanpour was great. My view of her has changed, but I think she was one of the more intelligent female journalists when I was growing up. Who would be another one? Connie Chung I liked. Of course, there is like a taste issue there. Who's another one? And you know, I'm talking about like 20, 30 years ago. I think she's like over 70 now. Yeah, when she was in her 50s, she looked like she was 25. Connie Chung. Who's another great female journalist? There's not too many, in my opinion. Well, I mean, on the alternative media, there certainly are a number. I mean, the Ashton Whitty. There's those girls from Infowars. Well, she would be one of them, but Millie Weaver, I think, is pretty good. There's a lot of good female journalists. It is difficult. I'll concede this to feminists. It is difficult for women journalists to get over the whole looks issue. But I think if you're on the radio, it's okay. There really is an issue with being able to succeed in journalism in general, and I think for women there is beyond that there's an extra step that they have to go through, which is a lot of us men are superficial. It's not going to change. LO, great female journalist, you can totally beat up to. Yeah. But yeah, Connie Chung was awesome. I'd say Kimberly Guilfoyle is good. Sarah Carter, by the way, great journalist. And she's an independent, I think. I think she doesn't necessarily. I think she works for a couple publications, but not permanently. Cheryl Atkinson, very good. But they're not people who are like Jamel Hill. I'll tell you the difference between her and some of the people I mentioned. Those people really, really are focused on a story and on exposing a story. She's focused on using a story in order to get her more exposure. And it's a problem. It is. Let me see. Would wear a burqa. I don't know what the hell he means by that. So another thing that happened, Starbucks, their former chairman, I think he's still their chairman. He used to be their CEO. If he runs for president, here are his credentials. So this is the way you see that the media are trying to float possibilities for candidacy. It says Donald Trump proved that a lifelong business person can become president. Howard Schultz may now attempt to show that a Democrat can do it just as a Republican can. On June 4th, Schultz stepped down as chairman of Starbucks, the company he built and ran for 31 years. Schultz is a politically active Democrat who supported Hillary Clinton's 2016 presidential campaign, and almost immediately upon resigning, he began to sound like a politician himself. Schultz told the New York Times his future could include public service. He went on CNBC to proclaim himself living proof of the American dream, and he bashed President Trump's policies on immigration and tax cuts, a possible preview of the 2020 presidential campaign if Trump runs for re-election and Schultz emerges as a challenger. Would he have a chance? Could the former CEO of a pricey coffee chain win over Heartland voters? Quote, he's clean, he's serious, he believes in America, says Harvard Business School historian Nancy Cohn, I don't know which one would be. See, if I say it one way, it's anti-Semitic, and if I say it the other way, it's not. Let's call it Kane. Okay? It's a name. I'm not saying anything against anybody. I don't want to be blocked on two platforms in the same day. Who has studied Starbucks' business model and co-authored a Harvard case study on Schultz's leadership at the company. He understands how to speak in a voice that a lot of people can relate to. Is that the same thing as being able to galvanize people to his vision? That's a much more open question. If Schultz runs, here are some of the credentials voters are likely to hear about. Blue-collar upbringing. Says he grew up in housing projects in Brooklyn, New York, with a father he describes in his biography Onward as an uneducated war veteran who never really found his spot in the world and held a series of really tough blue-collar jobs to support our family. Schultz put himself through college and went to work for Starbucks, then a small Seattle coffee chain as head of marketing in 1982. A business innovator, Schultz bought the small Starbucks chain with some other investors in 1987, well before coffee culture was a thing in the United States. You see, I think I think that's an oversimplification, but I get what they mean. One key insight was his desire to turn an otherwise dull counter operation into a community portal where people would linger and socialize, as he had noticed people do in Italian coffee shops in the 1980s. Genius for marketing. Schultz described himself as an entrepreneur fascinated by the magic of the merchant's art. We can use this as a segue. I know that Pinochet, if he's still there, will want to talk about Howard Schultz. Diana West. Let me see here. Thank you, Lennon McCarthy. That means a lot to me. 1 second. Where was I? They're going to be talking about so genius for marketing, familiarity with health policy, knowledge of the global economy, and political ambition. Look. Howard Schultz would be a complete and utter disaster as a presidential candidate. One of the reasons it's alluded to here. In 2015, Schultz launched the controversial Race Together campaign meant to encourage more open discussion of racial justice issues, which Starbucks suspended after a rash of criticism. Yeah, that was one of the worst ideas that happened that he ever put forward. Schultz was a confidant of Clinton during her 2016 presidential campaign, and private advice he gave to the candidate leaked when hackers published hundreds of emails from the account of John Podesta, who was chairman of Clinton's campaign. And then it says, quote, "The campaign feels yesterday," Schultz wrote in one email to a top aide, "it's too packaged and prescribed. Her inner circle and the powers to be need to understand how brands, and she is a brand in the world we now live in, are built." He's correct here. It requires a vision of the future that is steeped in truth and authenticity and builds an enduring emotional connection with voters. Yeah, I think that was a lost cause when he said that. In another email, Schultz wrote to a Clinton aide, "We are seeing a seismic shift in consumer behavior and in the attitudes of the American people. We've seen it in our core Starbucks business and certainly is acutely present in this political presidential primary season. How right he was. Now he must decide whether to do something about it." So yeah, we're gonna revisit that issue after we talk a little about Clinton himself. And I'm sure some of you have already seen this interview. We're gonna go through it, play it out.
We talked to the two men for a little more than 20 minutes on Sunday. For the first half of the interview, we talked about the novel, their new novel, The President is Missing. We then asked Clinton about the Me Too movement and the recent suggestion by some critics that he should have resigned during the Monica Lewinsky scandal, and whether, looking back now, if he would have handled that time differently. A few days ago, in response to critics who have suggested that you should have resigned in the wake of the Lewinsky scandal, you said that you should not have. If you were president now, in 2018, with everything that's going on with the Me Too movement, how would you have approached the accusations differently?
Well, I don't think it would be an issue because people would be using the facts instead of the imagined facts. If the facts were the same today, I wouldn't.
In 1998, President...
All right, let me stop it there for a second. Okay, bring myself back here. Look, people are not using the facts now, and they weren't in 1998. And that's one of the flaws here. But what he's basically trying to say is that people were lying about his role in the scandal in 1998. The fact of the matter is that he knows he lied to the American people. He wagged his finger at the press. And, he said, I did not have sexual relations with that woman, Miss Lewinsky. That's the exact quote. And then later he had to apologize for that and admit that he did. And he, by the way, what he did in that saga, it ruined the lives of a lot of people. I've had Gary Byrne on the show. I hope you guys do remember that interview. And it was a nightmare for him. His career was over at the Secret Service, basically. Let's see if there's anything new here. I know you're watching yourself, watching me. So yeah, let's keep going.
President Clinton shocked the world, first denying, then admitting to an affair with then White House intern Monica Lewinsky. The scandal launching a lengthy investigation that ended with Clinton becoming just the second president ever to be impeached.
You're asking, well, don't we have a right to change the rules? Yes, but you don't have a right to change the facts.
Clinton says critics are now pouncing in light of the Me Too movement, but he stands by his decision to fight impeachment rather than resign.
So a lot of the facts have been conveniently omitted to make the story work. But I think partly because they're frustrated that they got all these serious allegations against the current occupant of the Oval Office, and his voters don't seem to care. I think I did the right thing. I defended the Constitution.
You think this president's been...
He didn't actually defend the Constitution. You see, in many ways, what Clinton was doing at the time was trying to array the federal government in a way that would prevent him from being accountable. And you could say, I've thought about this many times, it's a result of the way Clinton successfully defended himself in the 90s, that those people thinking that you can impeach Donald Trump, you have almost no hope today. Because, all of the things, first of all, there's the guidance from the Justice Department saying, we can't really indict the president. When was that written? That was written in 1999 in response to this. So a lot of the problems that people are complaining about today are a result of Bill Clinton's defense, and for him to self-righteously claim it's only because Trump people are trying to deflect this to me. No, you set the precedent. A lot of the let's be honest here. I know a lot of you guys are Trump supporters. I personally do support a lot of Trump's policies. I do maintain a little bit of a more open mind about whether I should support a candidate all the way, full stop. Even Rand Paul, I would say, who's he would have been my candidate, is worthy of criticism. And where he has been. I would say with the Pompeo vote, that was kind of, we'll have to see if it was a fuck up, because if Korea does not work out, then yeah, it's a fuck up. But in any case, every candidate should be worthy of should be, willing to take criticism. And in Bill Clinton's case, he set up a situation where people can whine and scream all they want about Donald Trump. But the fact of the matter is that Bill Clinton violated the law in so many ways that it's difficult for me to say if Donald Trump were to violate a law and trigger a real crisis in this country, how would you be able to remove him now, given what Bill Clinton did in his own time in office?
Given a pass with regards to the women who have come forward and accused him of sexual misconduct?
Well, I think that no, but it hadn't gotten anything like the coverage that you would expect.
President Trump has been accused by numerous women of inappropriate sexual behavior, all of which he denies.
I like the Me Too movement. It's way overdue. I think it doesn't mean I agree with everything. I still have some...
Yeah, some people would say the Me Too movement was needed in the mid-90s.
Questions about some of the decisions which have been made.
This March, Monica Lewinsky penned an op-ed in Vanity Fair taking responsibility for her part in the scandal, but also admitting that years later she was diagnosed with PTSD from the unrelenting public scrutiny. One of the things that this Me Too era has done, it's forced a lot of women to speak out. One of those women, Monica Lewinsky, she wrote in an op-ed that the Me Too movement changed her view of sexual harassment. Quote, "He was my boss. He was the most powerful man on the planet. He was 27 years my senior. With enough life experience to know better, he was at the time at the pinnacle of his career while I was in my first job out of college." Looking back on what happened then, through the lens of Me Too now, do you think differently or feel more responsibility?
No, I felt terrible then, and I came to grips with it.
Did you ever apologize to her?
No, yes, and nobody believes that I got out of that for free. I left the White House $16 million in debt. But you typically have ignored gaping facts in describing this, and I bet you don't even know them. This was litigated 20 years ago. 2/3 of the American people sided with me. They were not insensitive to that.
So notice the language he uses. By the way, 2/3 of the American people supported me. This was litigated 20 years ago. The reason that it did not lead to an impeachment, I mean, it did lead to an impeachment, by the way, but it didn't lead to a removal from office, was because there weren't enough Republicans in the Senate. The fact of the matter is he was impeached by the House for perjury and for suborning perjury. What Bill Clinton did was this is a detail. There's so many things to talk about with that, but this is one detail that people should really think about. He basically had Monica Lewinsky sign an affidavit stating that she did not have sexual relations with the president. Then, the blue dress with the semen on it cropped up. No pun intended. And, that basically invalidated her testimony. It incriminated Monica Lewinsky for perjury because there was now evidence that she had engaged in an extramarital affair with Bill Clinton. So he basically ruined her life. He could have had her go to prison for lying under oath. Okay, that's really something that people miss. And he can play the victim all he wants, but Bill Clinton was never in trouble to the degree where he would have gone to prison for perjury. He probably would have been removed from office and then later given some sort of slap on the wrist, removal of his law license as a private citizen. And then, he would never have served a day in prison. She would have. Don't forget that.
I had a sexual harassment policy when I was governor in the 80s. I had 2 women chiefs of staff when I was governor. Women were overrepresented in the Attorney General's office in the 70s for their percentage in the bar. I've had nothing.
Yeah, they were overrepresented in his office because he was probably banging half of them. There was the big joke I remember on Norm Macdonald on Weekend Update. He said, people were asking for more women to come forward with stories of their affairs with Bill Clinton. So Norm Macdonald's joke was that his lawyer objected. He said that could be half of the women in the state of Arkansas.
Nothing but women leaders in my office since I left. You are giving one side and omitting facts.
Mr. President, I'm not trying to present a side.
You asked me if I agreed. The answer is no, I don't.
And I asked if you'd ever apologized, and you said you had.
I have.
You've apologized to her.
I apologize to everybody in the world.
It is important to me that everybody who has been hurt know that the sorrow I feel is genuine. First and most important, my family, Monica Lewinsky and her family.
But you didn't apologize to her.
I have not talked to her.
Do you feel like you owe her an apology?
No, I do. I do not. I've never talked to her. But I did say publicly on more than one occasion that I was sorry. That's very different. The apology was public.
And you don't think a private apology is owed?
I think this thing it's 20 years ago. Come on. Let's talk about JFK. Let's talk about,
This is James Patterson, the co-author of a book. They get the credit for the book. I doubt that either of them wrote it. I know James Patterson used to be like a big crime writer. Personally, I think I read one of his books probably when I was in middle school. And, I don't know about you guys. I wasn't very impressed.
LBJ, stop already.
I don't think you think President Kennedy should have resigned? Do you believe President Johnson should have resigned? Someone should ask you these questions because of the way you formulate the questions. I dealt with it 20 years.
So basically, Clinton's deflection is this. John F. Kennedy had affairs. Lyndon Johnson had affairs. They didn't resign. Why should I have resigned? But if you look at their careers, President Kennedy was murdered. So if he would have continued in the presidency, it's debatable whether he would have resigned or been forced to resign. You look at, one of his main mistresses was died in a very tragic way. Marilyn Monroe overdosed, I think, in barbiturates. I don't know if there's a conspiracy theory concerning that. I wouldn't be surprised if there was one. Who the fuck is this? 1 second. A couple people I should have shared this stream with. Sorry, everybody. Yeah, we're going to get to the anthem protest soon. I know that it is late at night, but I am covering some ground that I didn't get to cover this week. So let's just finish the rest of this interview, and then there's the follow-up from today.
Years ago, plus, and the American people, 2/3 of them stayed with me, and I've tried to do a good job since then with my life and with.
So before we keep going, he also mentioned Lyndon Johnson. Well, Lyndon Johnson's affairs, first of all, back in the 1960s, that type of stuff was much harder to get to the media and for them to publish it. Also, we were at the height of the Vietnam War. Lyndon Johnson ended up having to step down anyway because he was kind of losing support during the primaries in 1968. So he left office of his own accord. Should he have resigned? I don't know enough of the specifics about his affairs. I know he pissed on a Secret Service agent one time. So that in and of itself is kind of the guy was a jackass.
My work. That's all I have to say to you.
Fascinating.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And no question, it got a little bit heated there at the end.
Yeah, and when the cameras were off, the president acknowledged that the standards in society have changed, but also said that the standards should have changed from what they were 20 years ago. He also reiterated how the facts of his case make it very different from some of the high-profile cases that have been spawned as a result of Me Too. So coming up in our 8:30 half hour, though, more of our conversation with former President Clinton and James Patterson, including what led them to team up to write that new book, The President is Missing.
All right, Craig, thanks. Thank you.
As if anybody gives a fuck about that book. Second. How the hell did we get here? Yeah. So here is let's exit out of there. Here's today doing damage control on the Late Show with Stephen Colbert. I might not be able to play this because I'm locked on Twitter. That's how ridiculous this is. He can talk about how he's not to blame for harassing women. I can't believe this. Let's go to the video. Can't believe it.
I would agree with you. If I could, I would think some of the reason why people saw that interview and thought that it was tone deaf or whatever word they wanted to use is that you seem surprised that that question would come up. That there's somehow that this had all been adjudicated in the past and there's no reason to talk about it again, when it seems like the spirit of the Me Too movement is that it doesn't matter how long ago it happened. Examples of men who were not held accountable for their behavior, especially men in power with younger women or people who worked for them, is worthy of being re-adjudicating or adjudicating for the first time, no matter how long ago it happened. And so it seemed tone deaf to me because you seemed offended to be asked about this thing when, in all due respect, sir, your behavior was the most famous example of a powerful man sexually misbehaving in the workplace of my lifetime. And so it doesn't seem surprising that the question would be asked. Why are you surprised?
No, the question had been asked.
By him?
No, by other people in this context.
The Me Too context?
Yes, and I didn't mind at all. But I didn't like this one because it started with an assertion that basically I had never apologized, as if I had never tried to come to grips with it, and as if there had been no attempt to hold me accountable, which anybody who lived through that and knew the facts knew wasn't so. nonetheless, I realized, hey, there are a lot of people that don't have any memory of that, and all they saw was me mad, and I seemed to be tone deaf, to put it mildly. So last night when I was at my event, we did an event in Harlem with Walter Mosley, I asked to say something about it because I think it's important. People need to know. I apologize. I meant it then. I mean it now. I've lived with the consequences, and I still support Me Too. And I think we all need to keep trying to be doing better. And I would never dispute that.
The New York Times reported that the Democrats are not reaching out to you in 2018 to run because of the taint of your past experience with.
Look at James Patterson over here. He's basically like a fucking frog on a lily pad looking at two alligators fighting.
Monica Lewinsky in the light of the new Me Too movement. Is that true, and are you frustrated by it?
If it is, I don't know, because normally I don't do anything in primaries. I try to stay out of primaries. If it is, I'd be grateful to stay out of the primaries. But look, I think it's amazing to have the question asked. I've been out of the White House for 18 years. I don't.
But you're a big gun. I mean, they send you out there.
Well, I pretty had a
like
pretty
the
long
cavalry
half-life.
at times.
It is, but I'll just see. I don't know. A lot of people have called and asked if I do something when I can. But on the other hand, when I was a governor, I never had anybody come in for me. So, and never wanted it. So it's everything's different now. And we'll just see what happens. I just want them, what I want to say is these midterm elections are important, and the only people that really matter are not me, it's you.
So notice how he twisted the whole thing around to make it like a campaign pitch.
One of the main reasons.
So, gonna have to exit out of here.
Information.
So we are gonna get into the anthem thing. We might continue on that tomorrow too. Gonna talk a little bit about that. Pinochet, who brought up communists. Sorry, I don't remember that part. Let me see here. I will say this, okay? This is Their Lives. It's by Candace Jackson. She works for the Department of Education now under Betsy DeVos. She was kind of a libertarian feminist in the late 90s who chronicled all of the sexual misbehavior of Bill Clinton. Well, I don't know if you could say it was all of it, but a lot of it. And I don't know if you guys have heard of a name, Sally Perdue, but this is her account of this is just one account, okay, in the book Their Lives, which is about a lot of these victims. Some of whom, Elizabeth Ward Grayson, for example, not well known. Sally Perdue, not well known. Kathleen Willey, not well known. Monica Lewinsky, pretty well known. Paula Jones, very well known. But here we go. In an article published by the Toronto Sun in July 1996, apparently American media wouldn't publish him on this topic. Roger Morris revealed more details of Sally Perdue's breakup with Bill Clinton. When she told him she was thinking of running for mayor of Pine Bluff, Clinton bristled. You'd better not run for mayor, he warned her, and the relationship ended in an angry argument. He was clearly upset that she had crossed a line. Perdue remembered a good old boy, as she recalled him. He had wanted a good little girl as an intimate. I don't think he really wanted me to be an independent thinker at that point, Perdue would say. The good little girl line would come back to haunt Sally Perdue when it was thrown in her face as a threat after Clinton had announced his bid for president. By mid-1997, the Paula Jones sexual harassment lawsuit against Clinton was in full swing, garnering widespread media attention to Clinton's history of encounters with women. Sally Perdue made many lists of women whom commentators speculated the Paula Jones lawyers hoped to depose. By March 1999, even Investors Business Daily weighed in with an article reporting the, quote, diverse group of women, including Perdue, who charged that Bill Clinton personally assaulted them, or through his agents or people threatened to do them or their families physical harm. IBD even quoted the president of a renegade state chapter of NOW, the National Organization of Women, that broke ranks with the national organization over Clinton's behavior and warned White House female staffers to be careful. Mr. Clinton is an abuser of women. This is a quote. Is there anyone there to protect them? Can they report an assault safely, or will they and their families be threatened? So, these were people who were intimidated. This isn't just an issue of, whether he was legally culpable or not, or whether he lied. This is an issue of intimidation of witnesses, intimidation of people. So, that's really what I think is at stake here, and people should remember. It's not just an issue of Me Too or, whether sexual harassment is really sexual harassment. It's an issue of, somebody who was Attorney General of Arkansas, Governor of Arkansas, he was President of the United States, a law professor at the University of Arkansas, and there are numerous reports of women who were who had affairs with him, even consensual affairs, who were intimidated from coming forward and testifying against him on various issues that he had done that they knew about. So that's it for Bill Clinton today. Now for, let's check in again. California, U.S. Senate, Dianne Feinstein. You're going to see here with 31% reporting, it's pretty much a fix. Gavin Newsom is going to go to the second round or to the runoff in November, and you're going to see John Cox. So a lot of you people are going to have to choose between Gavin and Cox. Let's see some other ones first before we get to the anthem. New Jersey, there's one that I really wanted to look at. In the Democratic primary of Bob Menendez, who last year he was almost convicted of visiting underage prostitutes, among other things, in that corruption scandal. Which I don't think the prostitution thing was really the charge, but it was known that he visited underage prostitutes in the Dominican Republic. I don't think anybody's been talking about that one. And then you have some other dude who will be running against him. There was one other district that I think was kind of this one over here. This Jim Keedy was a big progressive. He's not going to be running in November. That's going to be a turnoff for a lot of the people who would have gone out and voted. I know that guy was very interesting. He was campaigning against Nike. He's been on the Jimmy Dore show. Interesting guy. Again, I wouldn't have voted for him because I don't support universal health care. Also, I would never live in the state of New Jersey. So, that's me. Montana. There was a guy running for senator over there, and this isn't me making it up. His name was Fag with 2 G's. Unsurprisingly, this is how open-minded the Republican Party is in 2018. That guy made 29% of the vote, almost got there, not quite. So 2020, maybe it'll be year of the Fag in Montana. Of course, it has 2 G's in it, so it has very little to do with any innuendo or any sort of slurs about any particular people. So, if anybody has a problem with that, they can kiss my ass. Let me see here. Wow, there's a dead heat between a couple people here. So that's going to be an important seat for Trump and the Democrats to fight over. Iowa, let me see here. Governor, I don't think that I don't think the Democrats are gonna win the governor's race there, but I could be wrong. I'm gonna have to talk to my friend Dade Murphy about that. Let's talk about the anthem. I did save it for the end. Pinochet brought up a very important topic, the supersonics, earlier. And what I would say to this is that, first of all, look at this. It says, after clawing at eagles, Trump honors the flag. President Trump held a White House ceremony honoring the flag Tuesday after rescinding his invitation for the NFL champion Philadelphia Eagles to visit the White House. It says crowd size still matters to President Donald Trump, so they take a shot at him. This isn't. They're being the petty ones here too. Even if you think Trump is being petty, listen. This is the media last year when the Patriots went to the White House. They made an absurd claim that more than half of the team didn't come, when in reality a lot of the team members were in the audience and not up on the stage. So, it was just a little different. But they used it. They were going to use the lower number of people in the delegation against the Trump administration anyway. He rescinded his invitation for the NFL champion Philadelphia Eagles. I feel sick just saying that, to visit the White House after learning that only a tiny handful of the team's representatives plan to attend, according to White House Press Secretary Sarah Sanders. In other words, the vast majority of the Eagles team decided to abandon their fans, she said Tuesday in a statement providing more context of the decision, which was announced by Trump Monday evening. Sanders' explanation differed significantly from the one Trump offered a day earlier when he rhetorically wrapped himself in the American flag to draw contrast with professional athletes who kneel during the national anthem. They disagree with their president because he insists that they proudly stand for the national anthem hand on heart in honor of the great men and women of our military and the people of our country, Trump said in a statement. The Eagles wanted to send a smaller delegation, but the 1,000 fans planning to attend the event deserved better. The problem, none of the Eagles took a knee last year, but the president has sought political advantage in waging a sustained campaign against players who do not stand for the anthem, which has exacerbated cultural divisions in the country and turned many of the nation's top players against him. On Tuesday, Sanders accused the Eagles of pulling a political stunt by trying to reschedule at the last minute and offering new dates on which it was widely known that the president would be traveling. And though she had drawn attention to the fact that the Eagles were sending a small delegation, in her own statement explaining the White House assessment leading up to the cancellation, Sanders told reporters that the president's position on the anthem has been clear. Instead of canceling Tuesday's White House event altogether, Trump decided to invite fans to come to celebrate the flag. About 50 U.S. flags were set up on the south lawn of the White House, and the president's own Marine Corps played patriotic standard. I don't know if they're paraphrasing something or they're making it up, or maybe he did say that, including the national anthem and Irving Berlin's God Bless America. Trump shared his reasons for standing during the anthem. He said, "We love our country, we respect our flag, we always proudly stand for the national anthem." He said, "We stand to honor our military and to honor our country and to remember the fallen heroes who never made it home." Then, citing economic data, he said the country is in the best shape it has ever been in. During the playing of the Star-Spangled Banner, an unidentified man knelt, according to a video posted on Twitter by Carina Bergfeldt of Swedish news outlet SVT. When it was over, he applauded the band. While none of the Eagles players joined NFL compatriots in refusing to stand last season, some found other ways to demonstrate their solidarities with players who sought to draw attention to what they say is police mistreatment of African-American suspects. After intense pressure from Trump, the NFL announced last month that it would fine players who don't stand for the national anthem if they are on the field when it is played, but the policy allows them to stay in the locker room during performances of the national anthem. Trump said Tuesday that there's no difference in his mind. Staying in the locker room for the playing of our national anthem is as disrespectful to our country as kneeling. Sorry. Then we'll play this clip in a second. Sanders said the Eagles gave the White House a list of 81 members of the organization, players, coaches, and other personnel who planned to attend, but as the event drew closer, it became clear few players would be at the White House. The White House, despite sensing a lack of good faith, nonetheless attempted to work with the Eagles over the weekend to change the event format that could accommodate a smaller group of players, she said. Unfortunately, the Eagles offered to send only a tiny handful of representatives, while making clear that the great majority of players would not attend the event despite planning to be in D.C. today. Representative Brendan Boyle, Democrat of Pennsylvania, slammed the president for pulling the invitation to the Eagles personnel who planned to attend. A championship team visiting the White House is a time-honored tradition, not something that was ever political, he said in a text exchange with NBC News. Unfortunately, Trump has now ruined this American tradition. The top stars for the teams currently competing in the NBA Finals, the Golden State Warriors and the Cleveland Cavaliers, said Tuesday that the White House need not clear any time on the president's schedule for the victor. I know no matter who wins this series, said the Cavaliers' LeBron James, no one wants invites anyway. Let's see if this works. You see, I can't play it because my Twitter account's locked. Steph Curry of Golden State, whose team had an invitation to the White House rescinded by Trump last year, also said the Warriors would avoid a visit with the president should they win. And there was like a minor correction. Let's hear the mayor of Philly. Oh, no, it doesn't even want to work.
Donald Trump is meaningless to this whole process. It's meaningless. He's meaningless to the city and the city's success. He tries at every chance he gets to tear cities down, and eventually he'll be gone one way or the other, and we'll move on. Well, the NFL are owned by, privileged white men. And I stand for the national anthem and put my hand over my heart because I'm a privileged white man. And I've had the experience of living in a country that doesn't denigrate me or arrest me or harass me in any way. And there are other people in this country whose rights have not been fully understood or fully fulfilled. And they have a right to protest that. And whether Malcolm Jenkins holds his hand up or somebody kneels, it's America. You have a right to express your feelings. And no one, Donald Trump or the NFL or anyone else, or Roger Goodell, has the right to tell them they can't do that.
Okay, so I want to make it clear. Mad Dodge Productions, welcome. It is a little late. I would normally invite you. I do want to know if we want to do a stream sometime, maybe next week. But I do know that you were streaming earlier, so you might be tired. Look. The issue here is we talked about the cake much earlier in this stream, and I would wonder how many people who are standing up in favor of calling Kaepernick to be able to stand up at his workplace, as you can do. You can support him if you want. How many of them supported that Baker? Probably very, very few of them. There's probably some people that support both of them. I would say this, okay? The National Football League was once really the consensus sports league in the United States. When I was growing up, everybody wanted to be, either Jerry Rice or, in my case, they want to be like Jay Novacek, tight end of the Cowboys, or they wanted to play linebacker like or they wanted to play, there was Reggie White of the Packers. It was Mad Dodge, we'll do it a different time, but I was trying to say, let's get connected offline, because I do want to know if you want to talk about some other topics, not this one. Although this one we can talk about too. I would say this, okay? Does the NFL have a right to abridge the free speech of these players when they're playing on the field? Yes, they do, because they're the private employer. In fact, they could probably abridge their rights when they're just practicing, not just during the game. They could probably say, in my practice, you don't fuck with the coach. That's abridging their free speech. If Bill Belichick, for example, says to Rob Gronkowski, I don't want to hear you talking all of that frat boy nonsense to me during my practice. I mean, look, that's abridging his freedom of speech. If you see, who's another coach, Dan Quinn of the Falcons, saying to, one of his people, like Julio Jones, for example, look, you're going to run that route the way I fucking tell you, or I'm going to yank you out of this practice. That's part of playing on a team. And that is in and of itself abridging your freedom of speech, because he could, Julio Jones could say, no, I'm going to run the route the way I want it to. And Dan Quinn isn't going to tell me how to say it. Well, how long will he stay on the Atlanta Falcons if he's doing it that way? Let's say, and there have been players that did that. I remember, I think Titus Young of the Detroit Lions. That's how he lost his spot in the league. He started running the routes the way he wanted it to. Next thing you know, he was cut by the Lions, and he was breaking into impound lots to get his car back, and he was getting arrested. Sad story. I'm not using it to make fun of him, because I think it was a serious condition of a player who had kind of mental stability issues. And there are, and obviously we're talking about the CTE issue in the NFL, and the NFL really is at a crossroads right now. So would I say that I support the rule requiring players to stand for the national anthem? I would say I don't care. I really don't care. I don't need to have these players pretending to support a country when, in many cases, I think that they don't really stand by that type of sentiment. I know McCarthy and everybody, you guys are gonna maybe disagree with me, but all I'm saying is this, okay? I think that if the NFL doesn't, they never had it in their minds to abridge their freedom of speech, why start now? The rule should have been in place before. And honestly, the best course of action Roger Goodell could have taken was in 2016 for, I love Pinochet's, that's a good comment. Run the route, you dumbass. The issue here is, in 2016, Roger Goodell could have said the day after, Kaepernick, fuck him. We're fining him $500,000, and that's it. And that's the end of it. We're going to fine you $500,000. You don't want to stand for the anthem next week, another $500,000. That would have probably solved the issue, fines, because they fine you for literally everything else in that stupid league. And by the way, I'm in favor of these players, if they want to, celebrate in the end zone and do all sorts of trash talk. I'm in favor of them fighting on the field. I'm fine with all that. I would be fine with the protest happening, in terms of them being allowed to do it. I'm not fine with, ESPN virtue signaling about the anthem. Let's go to ESPN's homepage. Let's see how many stories, and I didn't look before. So let's see how many stories relate to this. I guess we'll have to go to the NFL page. Let's go to NFL. Yeah, look, they did bury it. So it says White House Eagles to blame for Nick's visit. This is one of the headline stories. The undefeated. You have Jason Reed commenting on it. I don't know that much about him, so I'm not going to say whether I oppose him or not. They're running this thing with Rosie Greer and Ray. Those were two players in the 60s, sorry, that were friends with Bobby Kennedy. They have 11 HBCU greats on the 2019 College Football Hall of Fame ballot. So they're focusing on that. It is really, this is race center. That's there, or Clay Travis calls it woke center. They're focusing on the one black player in the NHL finals. Good for him. Trump versus the wild world of sports. A timeline. And there is a lot of focus on this. Evidence of innocence on TV One tells the stories of the wrongfully convicted. There's just way too much focus on this. It says Kanye West dropped a new album while we were all recovering from the NBA Finals chaos. The rapper's latest Ye offers a small peek into the weight his controversies had on his marriage. By the way, they use the wrong peak. It should be P-E-E-K, not P-E-A-K. I know that's the most important thing right now. And then they do here's another one on the Starbucks. The two Starbucks employees say the anti-bias training was needed, but it's not nearly enough. Yeah, that has nothing to do with sports. And I'll tell you another thing, talking about, and I'm glad Pinochet stayed up. I know that, he does have, usually has to turn in a little earlier. Arjun, welcome. Been talking with him earlier. How you doing, man? You said you had issues with the chat. I don't know why that's an issue. Ravishiska says this should be interesting. NFL should be changed to MFL, Major Female League, because these dudes are crying like bitches. They all up in their feelings like females. They should go check if they got a hot dog or a vagina. Yeah, it's a good take on that. The NFL back in the day was some really, really like hardcore people. Reggie White, who I wasn't a fan of him because he wasn't on a team I liked, but amazing player. That guy was like a mountain of pain. Who's another one? There was there were some real sack monsters back in the day. Charles Haley played for the Niners and the Cowboys. There was in terms of offensive players, Barry Sanders. The guy is basically a bowling ball that would go through defensive lines. That was really an era when you weren't talking about all this crap nowadays that has literally nothing to do with football. Who are the players today that we think of that are great testaments to the greatness of the game? There's only a few of them. So some of them, Richard Sherman, I would say, was a great cornerback. I think he's kind of tailing off. There was what's the other guy's name? Darrelle Revis was an amazing cornerback. Tom Brady, of course, you do have to give him props at quarterback. These defensive players, you don't see a lot of amazing linebackers around the league right now. It could be that I'm a little out of touch, but people just aren't talking about that. Mad Dodge Productions says Steve Young and Joe Montana. You know what? I got to admit, I hate Steve Young even to this day. Joe Montana, as much as I hate the 49ers, is before Tom Brady, I would say he was the greatest quarterback of all time. But, Tom Brady's past him, so what are you going to do? But I remember him playing for both the Niners and the Chiefs, and it was, unbelievable. But you remember them from playing football. You didn't remember them for all this nonsense that nobody gives a shit about. But what I was getting at with the whole thing, Pinochet says, I got the kids to sleep early. Yard work equals sleeping kids. Oh, good. Okay, so let me put it this way. He mentioned earlier the Supersonics, and for those of you that haven't seen it, there's a film on YouTube that is a must-see for people who, and I might rewatch it again. It just is a great film called Sonics Gate. It's a great amateur film. You have a director's cut. This is from 2010, and it goes through
Preservation Society.
It basically goes through. This is Howard Schultz from Starbucks, the guy I was discussing before, and his disgusting role in basically running the Supersonics into the ground. And yeah, I'm not a huge basketball fanatic. I would say that the Supersonics, in my opinion, were a marquee franchise when I was watching basketball. And to replace them with the Oklahoma City Thunder, I think was a joke. No offense to Thunder fans, but Oklahoma City is not Seattle. The culture of Seattle was more. It was more of a good fit for an NBA team than Oklahoma City. And what Howard Schultz did was he ran that franchise into the ground. And then, he basically made all sorts of ridiculous personnel decisions. I'll put this URL in the chat. And then the team, he had to sell the team because nobody had any confidence in the team anymore. Right? Deion Sanders, BOAT. What does BOAT mean? I know what GOAT means. Best of all time, maybe. I don't know if he means bitch of all time because he couldn't tackle. Pick Favre, more like pick six. If you like interceptions, pick Favre. Yeah, but Brett Favre. You bring up Brett Favre. You could criticize. He made some ridiculous decisions, but he was a tough dude. So that's one thing I'll respect him for, even though I hate the Packers. The hell. So Howard Schultz runs the Supersonics into the ground, and then in about I think 2008 or 2009, and you can watch this in the what's it called? You can watch it in the documentary. He sells it to Clay Bennett, who is this energy executive from over in Oklahoma, and they moved the team to Oklahoma City, and they did it in a very deceptive way. They basically cheated the city of Seattle out of a lot of money, and that's the way these leagues work. And that's why I don't care if it's the NFL or the NBA. I am not going to support them in if I can help it. Those leagues they're fleecing the viewers, they're fleecing the fans. I'll tell you another thing relating it to this issue. So we mentioned Dennett. I'm going to like my own video here. I'm going to be a dick here. But here's where I connect it. The Seattle Supersonics, they moved out of Seattle. Howard Schultz still remained, this big figure of esteem in the city of Seattle because lots of people, they like his piece of shit Starbucks franchise, business, corporate business, the one that franchises everything. This is a guy who is not really in touch with the working class of any city. They were talking about his working class roots or all that. The guy ran Seattle's best sports institution into the ground, and they left. They were the first team in the city to win a championship. I think it was in 78 or 79. And Pinochet says, I own season tickets up until that dickhead had sold the team. Never again. Well, yeah. So they're always talking about how they have this civic duty. Pinochet, no. Jeffrey Allen Johnson says, I once owned Chiefs tickets too. Fuck the Chiefs. Yeah, if I'm a Cowboys fan, even with Jerry Jones, so to speak, position on the anthem, it's a business position. He wants his players to stand for the anthem because he thinks it'll make him more money. Jerry Jones is not a patriot. He's he's in it to make a lot of money, and he gouges the fans. It's a very, very expensive ticket. The stadium is kind of, to be honest with you, the Cowboys stadium is really an obscenity. It's just too much. Just have a field there, play the damn game, and that's enough for me. I don't need like the greatest friggin' architectural wonder in the state of Texas in order for me to watch a game on TV. Fourth row center court, absolutely heartbroken. So when Schultz let the team go and then they moved out of the city, how was he held accountable? He wasn't. And when those players, by the way, raised fists. Whoops. Let's talk about this. John Carlos, who raised the fist during the 1968 Olympics, praises St. Louis Rams players. Now, in 1968, this guy who was an Olympic sprinter, I would have said, yeah, raise your fist. You're representing the USA. And that was during a very awful year. Martin Luther King was murdered. There were a lot of riots that year. I would have said in that year, I wouldn't have objected to players raising their fists as much as, that's associated with other issues like Marxism or whatever. That was a different time. This was an amateur athlete too. It wasn't his paid job, and he'd already won the competition. So then these players, they ran out on the field with their hands up, don't shoot. First of all, the Michael Brown didn't have his hands up, so that was a false allegation. The other issue with that is only about, I think, 2 years later, the Rams left St. Louis. So they have this huge commitment to, I remember that moment when he spiked on the star. They have this huge commitment to civic engagement with the hands up. Well, where did that commitment go when the Rams moved to LA? They didn't suddenly say, no, we want to stay in St. Louis in order to remain connected to the community. Not a single Rams player objected to moving. It's the biggest fraud ever. Let me see here. Bold like a leopard, how expensive are the tickets to the Cowboys games? There are tickets, I think, to those games that are like $1,200 a piece. It really is. It's obscene. It's just wrong. Probably more at this point. So I'll say this about my stance on the anthem. In my opinion, people should be able to people should be. If I was running the league, I would say if people want to kneel for the anthem, they can kneel for the anthem. It doesn't guarantee them that they're going to keep their job. If no team wants to sign them, then they're on their own. Another thing, if they get booed by the entire stadium, if I was to be running the league, I'd say, well, what do you want? The fans fucking hate you. Go fuck yourself. Another thing is, if you're protesting and you're constantly getting beat on the field, let's look at Eric Reed. Eric Reed, 2017. Let me see here. I mean, they were an awful team in 2017. Let's see. The Panthers game, I think, was the one where they were really getting hammered. Why does it say 16?
It off to use.
We're gonna have to speed it up.
There's it. Wide open and making a catch and cutting back to the inside and getting into the end zone the first time he touches a ball.
I think that was Eric Reed.
Up. Down and 8. Wide open. And making a catch. And cutting back.
Let's see. Let's see here. Number 29. I think that was Eric Reed. What the hell? Now it's 35. Anyway, yeah, the 49ers sucked that year. Well, this is him right here.
Back to the inside and getting in it.
So this guy was completely...
See that right arm come, and the target is the club?
Completely open.
Wide open. And making a catch. And cutting back to the inside and
so
getting into the end zone.
He could have pushed him out of bounds there.
Touches the ball as a Panther is Russell.
So, maybe I am cherry picking. But yeah, the Niners were a garbage team that year. $1,200 is about 80,000 rupees. That's like someone's month's salary. Yeah, it is like obscene. No, that's not season tickets. That would be like a game ticket for certain seats. There's luxury seats there. Now I think like a regular like upper deck seat would probably be at least $450 there. Yeah, there's a lot of things I would say about the anthem. I might have forgotten some of them, but I will say this. There was a fake report earlier on USA Today exposed it, but Fox News. This is what pisses me off. Fox News had to apologize after Eagles Zach Ertz blasts national anthem propaganda. That's true. Fox News broadcast a lot of footage that was claiming that the Eagles were kneeling for the anthem, as a group, but it turned out that they were doing some sort of prayer. So as much as I don't stand with the protesters, I also don't give a shit about banning the protesters. And I'm fine with people protesting the anthem as long as, they're fine with people telling them to go fuck themselves. I'm fine telling them to go fuck themselves. But I'm not gonna be playing into this charade that, Fox News is like, oh yeah, we're gonna all stand up for the anthem and keep our back straight and salute and whatever. It's just ridiculous. They went to such a degree, and I'm not going to support that. I'm fine with the people protesting as long as they're willing to suffer the consequences. How much for $1 million? I don't get it. $1 million rupees? Yeah, just go on Google. They'll do currency exchange for you. He's thinking Jeffrey Allen Johnson thinks he's talking about rupees. No, rupees is the Indian currency. Anyway, what was the last thing I was going to say about the anthem? Look, that's why I'm not going to support these protests, because these athletes are so full of shit. When these teams move out of the city, do you see them protesting? No. They don't give a shit about the city. This city, Cleveland, was a dump in the 90s. And the Browns left. And they went to Baltimore, another dump. And it hasn't gotten better because they have the Ravens over there. And the Colts moved out of Baltimore in order to go to Indianapolis. Indianapolis is still kind of, I wouldn't say Indianapolis is as bad as here, but I heard it's kind of like a strip club / gun store / church metropolis. It's like it's one of those three is like on every city block. So these NFL teams, you should always remember, you don't need the teams and you don't need the players. Okay, the teams are there for your entertainment. Of course, I still support the Cowboys personally, but I'm not too bent out of shape nowadays about what's going on in the NFL, because they've revealed themselves to be these totally self-infatuated people. One side, the owners, are infatuated with money, as they have every right to be, and the other side, the players, are infatuated with themselves. They're just narcissistic pieces of crap, and the cities themselves don't mean much. They don't care that much. Des Bryant, for example, I did want him to stay in Dallas. I think he did care. I think he did want to stay in Dallas. I think he should have stayed in Dallas. I want him to come back to Dallas. But there's a lot of players who could care less. Delaney Walker over in Tennessee said that the players who don't like the anthem protest, he said, bye. We don't need you. Well, if that's your attitude, then don't be surprised if there's like 15 fans in the stands sometimes. That's it for me. I know it was a long time. It's been 2.5 hours, but it's been a while since I streamed. And, maybe in the coming week or so, I'll stream a couple more times or whatever. I am working on writing a few more projects. Probably going to be working on a more regular schedule ahead of us, because, I'm going to be sort of, it's not going to be the same as it has been. I'm going to be trying to give in some more regular times and try to work things around so that you're able to keep track of what's going on with this channel more. If I do get unlocked from Twitter, I guess I'll let you know, even though Twitter is not as good as it used to be. It's kind of still a shitty platform, but even more so since they locked me, which now I suddenly care. That's about it. Have a good night. Please like, subscribe, comment below. Watch the Mattis File interview with Halsey News below. A lot more, specific stuff than what we talked about today. And have a great night. I guess California, enjoy your cocks.